This is a sample essay that you could use as the framework for your argument of definition. You're not required to turn in an outline in Comp 1. In my Comp 2 classes, they always have to have an outline before they write the research paper. But with most of the essays that we write in Comp 1, the thesis sets the framework. So if you've watched the thesis videos, you know how that works. And so I just want to walk you through. This has some different parameters than yours, but it gives you an idea of the kind of structure that I'm looking for. In this first paper, you're graded significantly on organization, and that means, do you have a thesis statement? Do all of your paragraphs have a topic sentence? Do you stay focused on one topic per each paragraph? And so the basis of that is an outline such as this. So the point of an introduction is to grab the reader's attention and to give them the necessary background to understand your claims or your argument. And then in a couple weeks, we'll study introductory techniques that you can use, that you can practice. But for this assignment, just use your normal introduction that you normally would. And you have to have a thesis. Remember, a thesis statement in my class must be underlined, must be the last sentence of the introductory paragraph or paragraphs. For this particular paper, you're probably just going to have the one introduction paragraph, but other assignments you may use multiple. The body of the paper is where you see the link between the thesis statement and the topic sentences. So this is a sample thesis statement. I typically tell students what you need to do is make sure that your topic is clear, your slant is clear. And since slant sometimes has a negative connotation here, I just put attitude towards the topic, and then your claims, or in the example here, I say reason 1, reason 2, reason 3. These are just your claims. And remember from the claims and argument video, those are what you are claiming to be true and what your evidence is supposed to prove. So if you haven't watched those, go back and watch them. In this instance, the poverty crisis in Colorado Springs is the pretend topic that the student is going to cover. And so that's the topic. The attitude or the slant is that it is negatively impacted by something. So this right here represents the attitude or the slant. And then the reasons or the claims are failures of the housing programs, food programs, and underfunded but existent government programs. So if this were real paper, this would be a student who has lived in poverty, right? Because you have to use your lived experience for it. And then you'll see how these claims here become your topic sentences for your body. So your thesis statement is essentially a one-line outline, if you think of it that way. And so the body of the paper is housing programs, housing crisis, food programs, food insecurity, and existent government programs, which is our concession and counterargument. So remember, a concession is where you say that you kind of give the other side's point of view. And for the rest of this class in arguments, you can do the concession in one sentence. When you get to Comp 2 and you're writing a research paper, you'll have to give more weight to the concession or to the other side. But for these papers, just one line is plenty. And so in Parker's essay, the concession was when she would say something like, but you say, what about the health clinics? And that's all she says about the other side, because she knows the other side is wondering how come she doesn't just go to the clinic. There's free clinics. And then her counter argument is the rest of her paragraph where she talks about the long walk and the kids not being able to make it and the creepy neighbor who is only going to give her a ride if she pays him back one way or another. So in your paper, it might look something like this. And I put an example here just so you could see how you can make it a concise statement in one sentence. Government programs exist to help the homeless. So that's the concession. Like, yep, you say, what about those government programs, right? And then the second half of the sentence is the counter argument. But these programs are overwhelmed and underfunded. So that's the topic sentence. And the rest of the paragraph should be evidence to support that. Now, realistically, a student couldn't do this based off their own lived experience. It's one of the reasons I use it, because that way you can't use this exact outline. But then you would use examples and evidence from your own life in the same way that Parker uses examples and evidence from her own life. You can use personal pronouns like I because you are the source of information for this. You are defining the term. But look back at Parker's essay and see that she doesn't say, I think poverty smells, or I think my house smells like sour milk, right? She tells you it is. It is a fact, right? She says poverty, I can't remember exact line, but something about poverty smells bad. And then she gives examples and she's like the sour milk, the this, the this, the this, and onions. And that's when she explains it. And she says, because onions are cheap. So you have to give evidence and then you have to explain the evidence because your reader may not understand the situation. You can almost see as you're writing it, her thinking, somebody reading it in peer review and saying, why would it smell like onions? I don't get it. And so she's answering, because onions are cheap. So that's what you're doing in your evidence. You're explaining your evidence. And then with your concession and your counterargument, you're providing evidence and explaining that evidence as well, so that you're reaching a conclusion with each one of those topics within the body of the paper. In your conclusion, yes, you're going to restate your thesis, but I would like a little more finesse than just plopping that sentence in there. This is your chance to leave a lasting impression on the reader. This is where you convince the reader that you are absolutely correct in your point. So the ultimate thing is the so what. So why does it matter? If you're writing about gaming and how people define gamers, why does it matter? Because it's trying to stereotype really almost the whole generations that have grown up around video gaming, right? So it does matter that people think these things about gamers. And then, as I said, in a couple of weeks, we'll talk about different techniques that you can use that will help you make that final push for your conclusion or for proving your argument. That's what I'm looking for when it comes to writing the paper. This would be sort of the structure that you're going to build off of. And this is what you're graded off of. You don't have to do this topic, obviously. Pick your own. You're going to use Parker's as an example of what a argument of definition is, but you won't use her full template because hers is longer and some of her paragraphs aren't as fully developed as others.